Okay, gone 1 o'clock. We'll get underway. Kia ora and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Taupō District Council meeting, August. Here, lovely to see a pretty full table around the house. So, and welcome to members of the public, staff and executive. Good to have you all here. All right, we'll get underway. Item number 1 is a lovely karakia by Councillor Rachel Shepherd. Thank you, Rachel.
Tuia ki te Māori o te whenua. Tuia ki te mana o te tangata. Tuia ki te pono, te aroha, kia piki, kia iki, ki te taumata, hui
Thank you very much, Councillor Shepherd, on this beautiful Taupō day. Up the mountains, but hope you're very good to see you down there way past me. Item number 2 is apologies, and we have Councillor Sandra Greenslade, who's still on international visiting.
It's an early departure if they're not finished by 2:45.
Okay, thank you. Could I believe the apologies be accepted? Thank you, Councillor Truman. Seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Okay. Item number 3, any conflicts of interest pertaining to the items today? Councillor Westerman.
Just to note that item 5.4, my company was involved in the sale to Tom Condon Mango Developments in the Mangakino application.
Thank you very much, Councillor Westerman. We'll record that. Councillor Loughlin.
One Pātū Trust. If my father's a still.
Okay. Pātū. So Councillor Loughlin is a conflict here. Okay, item number 4 is confirmation of the minutes of the last meeting, which was held on the 25th of July, 2023. Any items, any adjustment to those minutes or any matters arising from those minutes? No, more straightforward. Could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Parks, seconded by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carry. Item number 5.1, long-term plan update, proposed new council activity groupings.
Including the confidential ones. They'd have to give that time, right?
They're now included. No. Previously confidential, but now long-term plan update. Louise, good afternoon, Louise.
How are we?
Yeah, very well.
Thank you for your time this afternoon. The purpose of this report is twofold, one of which is just to give you an update on the progress of how the long-term plan's developing. And the second is to seek your endorsement of some new activity groupings that are being proposed in support of the development of the long-term plan. Just picking up the first key issue around progress. So we've given you a little bit of an update in that first table around key bits and pieces we've been working on. I'm just going to run through them very briefly, and yeah, we can have questions obviously if we have anything arising. So first step that we've taken is to confirm our strategic direction. So thanks obviously to councillors for identifying new vision and community outcomes. We've also been working closely with the business to develop activity area plans, which is basically where all parts of the business identify what's going on in their particular space, whether that's transport or wastewater, and talk around the context that they're facing, where they'd like for those activities to go in the future in order to deliver on community needs, and then highlight capital projects and initiatives that they think will enable us to get to that future state. We're then using the information that's generated from those activity area plans to form a draft list of capital projects, which we'll be bringing to you for the first time for your consideration on Thursday. So we'll have quite a workshop there to talk around a draft capital program. So we've basically been through a bit of a process over recent months to pull together all of those arising projects, look at the costs of those, look at when they're programmed to occur, and try and come up with a palatable program that's deliverable and affordable. But again, that'll be the focus of Thursday's workshop. While we speak, there's also been quite a bit happening in early community engagement, and many thanks to those of you who've been able to attend those events. That kicked off on the 18th of August and will continue through until Monday. We've had a survey going out simultaneously with that early engagement. There's been two key facets to that survey. One is around how we deal with curbside collection going forwards. The bag it or bin it survey, asking people whether they prefer bins or bags. And the other is asking for their feedback on whether we should do more or less of certain activities in council. And we've had particularly good feedback and uptake on the bag it or bin it with over 1,000 survey responses to date. But we won't get into the details of that, but just, yeah, it's been a worthwhile exercise and will really help that key decision, I think, that you're going to need making going forward into the long-term plan. So that's been quite useful. We've also got quite a bit of work going on in the background on various funding financial policies. We'll be coming to talk to you a bit more around progress of that around the 12th of September. And yeah, the rest is tracking along. I think just one thing to note, we have had a slight change in some of the deliverable timescales mentioned on this report, subsequent to just needing to manage and juggle our financing resources. They've still got ongoing commitments with the annual report, and we just need to enable them to finish those commitments before we drag them into operational budgets and things like that on the LTP. So that'll affect this timeline by about 2 to 4 weeks, but we'll be working with Sarah to try and make sure that we can still hit the big deadline. So we believe that that's achievable. We'll just need to work through the details of how we're going to make that work. Are there any questions on that so far before I carry on to the next part of the report?
Any questions? Yes.
Cool.
Carry on, thanks.
We're asking you to consider a new group of council activities, and it might seem slightly administrative, but it's actually important that we get it right. Council activity groupings are used in the long-term plan and our ongoing reporting through annual reports to make transparent to the community what we're spending our money on and how we're progressing and delivering against what we said we'd do. So if we have too fewer activities and they're grouped too highly, we don't give that transparency to the community. But if we have too many and they're on the wrong thing, we end up with a very convoluted long-term plan and a very convoluted annual report every year thereafter, because there's under legislation certain things that we have to do in terms of reporting against groups of activities. The reason we felt that a change is necessary compared to where we have been previously is our emerging focus primarily on property and particularly around affordable housing provision. So that's a new strategic focus for the council, which we'd like to emphasise in the groupings. So the table 1 sort of highlights where there's been changes made, and yeah, just for your consideration, I won't go through the details. A large number of them are just tweaks to the wording, but like I say, the main change is around emphasising strategic property as a new word.
Sorry, just through the chair there, although it doesn't look like a lot of change, quite a lot of the individual activities have moved, and because there's so many of them as listed in the third column of that table 1, we didn't want to do it before and after because it would have been quite messy, but that's sort of where a lot of the movement's taken place. So putting things in the right groupings has been a big chunk of the work we did on review. So, but the titles themselves and the groups of activity fundamentally don't look a heap difference, other than highlighting that strategic property group activity.
And sorry, just if I may, it's important that we try and make a decision on this reasonably soon because it feeds into our financial system and all of the budgets that we're going to be putting in going forward. So, yeah. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Louise. Any questions? Councillor Williamson.
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to congratulate Verizon on this agenda item. Clarity, and it's very easy to follow. The action is obviously another matter, but so something we haven't seen in the past, no respect to past policies. people, but this is really, really good stuff.
Oh, thank you.
Councillor Leonard.
Thank you. Very comprehensive report. Just looking here under community leadership, and we've got project delivery and support and investments in airport. And then we've got another category, strategic property, only with property and housing for the elderly. Could you just tell me the thinking between those groupings in those places? That just doesn't make sense in my mind.
Sure. So like I say, the strategic property is largely around highlighting our investments in property, whereas the community leadership is around a lot of the enabling functions that we have in council that enable us to demonstrate leadership to our community. So that's my understanding of the thinking behind that.
Yeah, and further to split the investment portfolio too. Again, it was ensuring that clear separation of that strategic property. So it's clear the community about what we're spending on that strategic property stuff. And then the investments is within that community leadership. It's, again, that's more that enabling function. It's how we operate.
Councillor Truman.
Yeah, just also wondering, so you've got solid waste has gone to waste and environmental management. Just under the activities, do we have something that's sort of around environment, climate change, that kind of focus?
In short, no. We do have an in-house person who focuses on climate change, Aidan Smith, who you may have met before, I'm sure. But the intention is that every part of our business incorporates and gives effect to our climate change strategy. So it's something that should become part of our business as usual, to be embedded through implementation of that, rather than being the responsibility of one particular part. So that's part of our challenge, is to make sure that we communicate and keep that embedded in all things that we do, right through from procurement through to, making choices on buildings that we might build, for example. Yeah.
Very good. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Louise. Comprehensive report. There's a recommendation there. That council agrees to the activity groups and are listed below. Another discussion. Thank you, Councillor. Moved by Councillor Loughlin, seconded by Councillor Shepherd. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carry. Thank you very much, Louise. Next up, we've got...
Thank Louise for the effort with the long-term plan. Louise starts her new role on Monday, so we will be getting a new project manager, who is Kendall. So Louise is departing that seat and moving into a new one, and I'm very excited to have Louise on my team. So but thank you so much for progressing the long-term plan, because I think it's fair to say when you took over the job, it was it's come a long way, so thank you.
Business excellence manager. So for avoidance of doubt, she's not leaving the organisation. She's just moving into a new position.
And what's the title? So?
Business excellence.
Here we go.
Yeah. Better do something excellent then.
Yeah.
You will.
Thanks so much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Louise. Right, item 5.2 is endorsement for the first tranche of the significant assumptions. Long-term plan. Good morning. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Just put that speaker on if you can, tell me. That's lovely.
Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. So this is the first tranche of significant assumptions that we are bringing to you for your endorsement. We'll come with a second tranche later on when related to the financial aspects. And that's when we'll have all the numbers kind of together. Some of them are outside our control. So this first tranche is around significant assumptions around macroeconomic factors, legislative reforms like affordable waters, and other environmental and infrastructural factors, and around population projections and demographic trends. So, and we're coming for you to endorse them because that would give some certainty to the other parts of the business that will use these significant assumptions for their work, which then some of it feeds back into the LTP process such as the CapEx program, for example. And so we are coming to you for their endorsement. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, do you have any questions?
Very good, thank you. Thank you, Colin. We work on these numbers. Any questions, Colin? Just like that? Well done. Oh, Councillor Taylor.
More a comment than a question. And I note throughout the document the difficulty we have with the election coming up and the risk that that poses. And I just want to express my thanks to the team for putting this together, knowing that an enormous amount of work could end up, I use the three waters analogy, being flushed away. That wasn't a lean towards the new facilities in Mangakino either. But I'm happy to move.
Mr. Payne is back. No, all pretty straightforward. There's a recommendation there.
Just wanted to.
Oh, sorry,
just note, as our councillor Taylor said, through the chair, sorry. The assumptions here will move. Look, we're in such an uncertain environment. This is the first iteration of them, likely to be at least one or two more. But look, we just want, that's the state of the nation at the moment, and we wanted endorsement so we can move forward on that basis as we have been, and then we'll come back for new ones and adjust along the way. It's the environment is what it is.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, thank you, Colin. Please thank you, Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Westerman. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Okay, 5.3, funding request to enable completion of the Taupō Down Centre Transformation Project. We have Mr. Fraser, Scott and Travis. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. You, Fraser. We haven't seen you for a while.
Hi. Great to see you. I've got to adjust to using my glasses, so excuse me.
Oh, you had glasses before.
Oh, it's new.
He's getting older.
Yeah.
It does happen. Okay, gentlemen, what do you want?
We take you out to dinner first. Thank you for your time on this stunning Taupō day. We're going to take that paper as read, but Travis is the PM for this project, is going to give a quick summary of the journey to now.
Yeah. So as many of you who are part of the steering group be aware, so the item in this paper regarding the overhead technical pattern was part of a larger, I guess, series of items around creating some points of interest through mana whenua items to bit of character and cultural identity. So this is sort of weaved throughout the whole lakefront and Tongariro Street project, and this overhead lighting was one of those items. Now, we ran into some engineering challenges along the way with the overhead, and in an effort to make our opening day, we decided we would defer so we had time to work through design. In May 2023, I brought to the steering group the forecast cost for completion of the town center project. And one of the items that was in there was a provisional sum against the overhead lighting. And it was at that time the steering group had made the decision that they would give us time to go get a little additional cost certainty around what the overhead lighting would cost to do, and would support a full council request for the expenditure to actually do that. Also bearing in mind that down there we do have some temporary lighting, which is lighting the roadway down there, because this item was, while it was a cultural item, it also had additional functionality around slowing down traffic, lighting the space, etc., which I think you'll find in the paper. So we've done that work, and now we are here. There's also another piece of this paper which refers to an assessment done outside of TTCT regarding traffic flows, which is the Judder Bar item that you'll see. And there, I think it's been broken up into two different options.
Cool. Okay, but just tell us about, so you want approval for the Jalabar removal. Can you just tell us about that, Trev? That's in Hugh Street or?
Through the chair, I'm happy to speak to this
Yeah.
item. So as Travis mentioned, the first item paper is related to the project.
Yeah.
The second two items relate to an independent review that was done about traffic flows. Informally, I've advised councillors that there were some proposed actions as a result of that. The Transport and Parks team looked at those proposed actions and have recommended two possible ones that we bring forward here. One is a change in the signage that motorists face as they come off the Control Gates Bridge. And the second is a removal of shutter bars onto Hugh Street. And both of those actions are intended towards reducing the number of vehicles, particularly heavy vehicles, that end up travelling down Robert Street. These items were both not within the scope of the project, and therefore were not scoped as part of the project. They've arisen as a result of independent review, and we're bringing them forward here for council to have a view about whether they're being pursued or not. So they're collected together as one paper because they will be delivered together and they affect the same space, but they are all part of the same.
Right, questions, Councillor Shepherd?
Thank you very much. It was very clear, and I guess my first thought is I think the lights need to happen. We promised that to the tenants along that way and the businesses, and they've been asking for it. So I think that's a yes for me. I see that as being quite important to finish off that TCTT project. I also think the signage changes are really important because I thought that was quite confusing for locals and visitors alike. But I have some concerns about the Jada bars into Hugh Street. I can see that creating a new thoroughfare for vehicles coming from the north. It'll be common knowledge that that's a lot easier way to go, and we'll end up with too much traffic going through a very narrow Tongariro Street. So personally, I have some issues with that, and I'm not sure that that's going to achieve the desired outcome.
Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Park.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have the same opinion as Councillor Shepherd. Having sat on the TTCT steering group over the last couple of years, I absolutely endorse that we complete this project. However, I don't see the benefit in removing the Jada bars or speed humps from Hugh to Hugh Street at all. I think that it's a nice to have, but not necessary in this current environment.
Councillor, thank you, Councillor Park. Councillor Taylor.
I'll start with a question. The gantry wording that's been changed, is that dependent upon the Jada bars being removed, or is the wording yet to be finalised?
No, it's not related to the chair.
Unrelated. In that case, I share the same concerns. I am aware that the purpose is to reduce as much as possible the traffic on what is currently called Robert Street. And I've had a couple of conversations about this, and my thinking has waxed and waned, and I'm probably leaning towards seeking more information on ways we could slow traffic down and calm traffic in Robert Street as opposed to changing other parts of the CBD. The whole purpose of this was to make it people friendly, not vehicle friendly. So I'm leaning towards a tick for the gantry wording and the Tanako, but not for the Jada bar removal.
Any other councillors? Councillor Rankin.
I feel I need to say that about a year ago, a group of women actually came to see me who were part of a cancer group. And they came to see me about the Jada bars because they said nobody had ever thought about how agonising it is for them to have to actually endure. They tried to avoid them in the town because they do suffer so much with them. So that had never occurred to me before. I'd never thought about it, but because they came to see me and they were very clear about, they said, please, please don't put any more in the town because we suffer so much. I just feel it's my responsibility to raise it again. I did raise it last year, but I'd never thought about that before. I've never been through that, but it's obviously a consideration for some people. So it's not just a technical thing in terms of slowing the traffic. There is another aspect that I had never thought of. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Judder bars are not actually the correct term. Judder bars to me are the short, sharp. These are
Speed humps, same thing.
speed.
The speed humps, and speed bumps.
Through the chair, the jump bars are the ones we're talking about, not the raised platforms. So on Te Papamārearea Street, there are 2 raised platforms, and there are 2 jump bars. And the raised platforms we're proposing are going to stay as is, and the 2 jump bars, which are quite sharp, as councillor, are the ones we're talking about, proposing to remove them.
The judder bar to me is the ones in Taupō Street. Rubber, that's the judder. Anyway, that's just me. These are quite wide, aren't they? Where is it?
That's down there in the bottom right.
It's outside of Reflector.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, no, further down, sorry.
No, that's
Outside-
platform, isn't it?
Plus, yeah, there's a platform outside of Replete, there's speed bumps, judder bars further down.
Okay, so there's 2.
There's 4 of them in the street.
Cool. All right, around the table, Kylie, Councillor Leonard.
We received $20.6 million shovel ready funding. We didn't think we were going to have to top it up. We topped it up 4.4 million, and I just think this is a stretch too far. Current economic climate and what else we could spend this money on against it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, just on the judder bar speed hump thing, I'm not really totally on board with removing them. I'd say with those ones that are in there now would have been quite expensive to put in the first place, actually. They're not cheapos. And they do serve as a form of traffic calming now. So I'm somewhat skeptical removing them would achieve much. I do question if the traffic consultant was scoped to look for more worthwhile solutions than just the stuff they come up with, a few wayfinding signs and speed humps. I mean, I said this back in 2021, if you're going to remove a section of arterial road, you should be giving sufficient consideration to vehicle traffic alternatives. And I just still don't think this is properly happening at this council. I mean, the public at large know that traffic is worse than before in town. I'm still advocating for some more worthwhile, substantial measures. I've suggested a couple of roundabouts. I don't know whether that doesn't seem to be part of their brief to look at alternative traffic measures. I mean, I've been advocating for this. This seems to be falling on deaf ears here at this council, which I don't believe this council has figured out how to take transport seriously. My interpretation of this is partly due to sometimes, I'll say this to all of you, tragic interpretation of governance to take little interest or involvement and operate in the matters deemed as operational.
Point of order, sorry, through the chair. Is the councillor speaking to the item or is this a general criticism of council? Because if it's the latter, I'd ask that he comes back onto point and addresses the agenda item that's in front of us.
Point of order, acceptable. Campbell, just could you pertain to the item, please?
Well, Your Worship, I'm bringing up this item, this issue, because I do believe it significantly does relate to this particular item. But I've said it, more or less said it anyway.
Questions come in from the staff that we're going to approve these things that go ahead, which have already been consulted on, all that sort of carry on. So we just want to stick with this item today, if that's okay, Councillor Taylor and Councillor Campbell.
I've spoken for it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'll just point out the street lighting. That does seem a somewhat expensive way of doing it. Compared to the, I mean, if we're just talking about security, there would be a much cheaper way of achieving that than what is being proposed here. So I'm sorry, personal security.
It's not only security.
No, I understand that.
Aesthetics of the whole completion of the project.
Yes, I agree with, I'm somewhat backing up Councillor Leonard's opinion that it is something of a frilly extra. I'll say that to it. I'm not convinced it's necessary.
It's been right at the original plans, it's been plans all the way through.
It has, okay, well, all right, but doesn't mean it has to go through, but anyway.
No.
Right, well, that's.
Thank you very much.
Me.
Councillor Westman.
Yes, I'd just like to support the street lighting. It's something that came up originally, and I'd feel quite upset if that didn't go ahead. We've made a commitment, and I think we need to support the whole concept and finish it off down there. I too have concerns about the TQQ crossing. I've been up there a couple of times over the last couple of days, and I just feel it does slow the traffic when people are trying to walk across from one side of the road to the other. So I can think we could drop that off.
Councillor Lachlan.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I wrestled a little bit too in terms of the cost and just in terms of the current climate, but except that this is all part of a program that we agreed to with the community. So on that basis, happy to support that angle. In terms of the judder bars, I mean, I agree with Christine. I mean, I'm not a big fan of judder bars. I need good evidence in terms of all these accidents that supposedly are happening to justify having as many as we do. But yeah, I mean, I had a friend of mine, I take him to the chemist, he just had a triple bypass. When we were like hitting those tiny little judder bars, he had a cushion protecting his chest, but it was quite very, very sore. Blame me. So
that's why I always wonder why they've got to go to hospitals.
Yeah,
4 sensitive.
I think there are already these other things to slow the traffic down there. So if they were to be removed, I get the cost, probably do cost a bit to take out, but I would support the removal.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Truman, and then Councillor Fletcher, and then Councillor Shepherd.
Yeah, I'm all supportive of doing the Tūrangi. I think that's going to just set that area off, and it's long been in the plan. But the other thing that I just wanted to bring up is the fact that we've also got our Mangakino basketball court in the plan, and that has been under budgeted as well. And yet we're not coming to full council to ask for extra expenditure. And I think that that's something that we need to do. In Mangakino, we've got kids on an unsafe basketball court with exposed Rio bar. It's not on our land, but we've got a solution for it, promised the community, and then we've underestimated the cost. And I just think if we've got to look at priorities, health and safety would always be first priority over, continuing to beautify and safe in an area too. But I would just like to also see the basketball court brought to this table to get that through, because it's been so long. These kids have been waiting for it for so long, and it's, even if we have to do it in stages, at least to just get the court down so they've got a safe flat surface rather than the undulating dangerous one that they've got now.
Thank you, Councillor Truman. Andrew's nodding his head there. It's already underway, is it, or getting close?
Look, as
I'm actually getting sick of hearing about this basketball court. Sorry, Kirsty.
Look, as Councillor Truman mentioned, that project is at a similar stage. It's got some elements of scope that can't be fitted within the budget. Based on discussions today, we will endeavour to bring that to this table if that would help expedite that scope as well.
Thank you, but otherwise you're supportive of the lights.
Supportive of the lights.
What about the judder bars?
Yeah, I other than the reasons of people's people that are getting hurt by them, I would have thought to keep them there
been a priority, just to slow that traffic down.
But yeah, unless they could be made into a platform, that would be my other, could you make it into a platform rather than the judder bars at a cheaper cost?
Thanks, Fletcher.
Just a couple of quick questions that I think are probably worth asking. Firstly, if this was an expectation of the project to push it to its completion, then why wasn't it originally budgeted as part of our annual plan? And with that being said, also, I think we're looking for roughly around $500,000. Where then will that money be pulled from?
So correct, it was part of the original budget, the budget at the time when we had requested the money for the Manawhenua items. As the progress progressed, if I guess other things happened and we didn't have the engineering stuff to push go on that. Something would have been left behind. It was just this, because of the engineering issues that we had with the design, we had to defer it until after the opening. Otherwise, we would have had to push back the opening. It was my duty as project manager to identify when I had forecast costs that I was going to go over budget. So that's why I did that and brought that to the steering group. Yeah, because last thing I'd want to be doing is going, I've now spent too much money. Can I please have more, rather than here's what I believe that I will spend, and going through it this way.
And through the chair, you actually received submissions, in my recollection, through the annual plan process, and submitters were acknowledged that this would be coming to council at a later date. So at that time, we did flag that this was a process that was underway, coming back to council for a decision. And in terms of funding, that was intended to be loan funded.
Cool, thank you, Councillor Fletcher. Councillor Shepherd. Okay. I'll turn mine off.
If I've read and understand the report correctly, the reason for taking the judder bars out are to encourage larger vehicles or traffic that have gone down Tongariro Street to avoid using Tūwharetoa Street and Robert Street, which I acknowledge. But if we get our wayfinding right, isn't it the whole point to get them onto Spa Road and then into the CBD from Ruapehu and Titiropenga Street? And I would suggest that if we're going to get people off Tongariro Street, we want to do it well before to Huhu Street, perhaps Tamamutu, and take those judder bars out and put it around there. I'm not suggesting we do that. I'm not a traffic engineer. I just don't think that offering makes much sense to what we're trying to achieve.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Oh, sorry, Councillor Williamson.
Yeah, thank you, Your Wish. Councillor Shepherd took the words out of my mouth, and also supporting Councillor Taylor's point about wayfinding. We won't need to try to encourage any more traffic on the CBD than we need to. With our experience, so I'm sensitive to Councillor Rankin's and Councillor Lockwood's comments as well about experience for some travellers down there. But having said, I was still very reluctant for them to come out. And as far as the lighting, I fully support the installation of those lights. I think the project make it the well pass a bit of work experience down there. Got to do it once, do it right.
Thank you very much, Councillor Williams. Councillor Campbell.
Could we just go back to that slide to the judder bars? I just want to clarify this. And what group was that, Christine? Sorry, that you were having the problems?
It was a group of women recovering from cancer. They were,
Cancer. Oh.
they were a support group.
Okay. I've heard with people with severe back injuries really don't like these things either. But so that picture number 3, were you advocate? I think Andrew just said we weren't getting rid of those. Did you not say that? Or
No, the ones shown in the picture are the ones we are proposing to remove as part of this paper. The ones that are not pictured are the ones we're not proposing to remove. So there are 2 additional raised platforms.
Oh, yes. So you work at, I see. So when you say, sorry, judder bars, there are those short, stubby rock. There's some of those along.
That's what they are.
No, that's not. Those aren't. Sorry, they are. Is that not on a platform? Are those little They are. And I've got to say, it's my experience as a traffic engineer. that's actually quite unusual to have those short stubby things in a town. They are the most severe you can get. I mean, I'm not saying absolutely we should keep them, we should take them, but yeah, they're not the usual. They are more severe than you usually have, actually. I mean, and they wouldn't have been cheap to put in either. But yeah.
Okay.
Chair, I'd be happy to move a recommendation without the Joe Bar's removal if anyone else is willing to
Okay,
second that.
that sounds where I was possibly leading to. Could perhaps, yes, Councillor Park?
Yes, I'd be happy to second Councillor Shepherd's recommendations, which would mean that we're approving unbudgeted expenditure of 477,000 plus STs.
Okay, so lights only and wayfind and the signs. Yeah, and the gantry thing. Yeah. Okay. How's so it's been moved. Can we do the lights and the gantry? But leave the judder bars out of the way. I'm in agreement with that because, you know, like I know they'll possibly be done at night. They see the contractors can do it at night, but there'd be always a few orange cones around to get it. I think the CBD just need a chance to rebreathe and, you know, fresh and people there. But long term, I would certainly consider the removal of those things. I don't know. Are they called judder bars?
I'll call the judder bar.
Yeah, judder bars. Okay. Right. We've got mover and seconder.
One more.
Did you want to talk to Danny?
Is it worth us just polling the second part? I mean, we do this resolution by itself. Is it worth just getting a rough idea just for staff, how they feel about judder bars, at least?
Yeah.
As it stands right now, just in terms of how people's feeling.
So could I just have the hands up who wants to get rid of the judder bars?
Oh, no, sorry, but I'm confused. Yeah, don't want
to. Cool. So that has to be a fairly strong communication. But I'm not saying long term that it's not a proposal that we could look at, but I just want a breather at the moment, CBD, that people start to trade and get normal to the situation, no orange cones. They know it'll be done at night, probably quite quickly. I just think we should just leave it at the moment. Councillor Rankin?
Well, could we agree to bear in mind people in difficult circumstances, if we ever think of putting any more in?
Yeah.
Or whether they could be removed at a later date when everything's settled down. I'd be happy with that.
I'll certainly get that in the notes that we'll have a look at it later. You know, we do, when we do these things, we do through the mobile access group, who have, you know, consult with us and all that sort of thing. So anything in the future, they'll be involved with. Gentlemen, anything else you want to add? It's been moved and seconded. We do lights now, Javi. How much disruption? Can they be done at night?
Do you want me to see if I can get blue cones?
Sorry, just want to, you know, obviously use the, you know, contractors and all that sort of thing. Do you think?
At this stage, we've got them going in and completed by Labour weekend.
Yeah.
So I'll be ringing the contractors in about 10 minutes time.
Just waiting for it to go ahead. Yeah, and dare I say local providers or not? Oh, they are. Oh, great.
Yeah, that's why it's taken so long, as we've been trying to work through that and how we can do it locally.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Nothing else you want to add? And thank you guys while you're here too. You know, I know you've been publicly acknowledged before, but what a wonderful result we've got down there. It's just people just burning up every time. You know, all the a lot of anti people said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't actually realise it was going to be like that," and all that sort of stuff. Well done. Cool. You made it well class. Oh, we've got the V8s coming. Okay, been moved and seconded by Councillor Shepherd and Councillor Park. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against?
Yeah.
Let them recorded, Kylie, Councillor Leonard and Councillor Campbell. Thank you very much. Right, next item. We have.
And we have got the reclassification of land.
Okay.
Recreation reserve.
Okay. Welcome. Philip, it's good to have you here. On my paperwork. I'm here. 5.4. Reclassification. Are you not here, no?
No, there's a
No.
CAB meeting.
Okay. Welcome, Philip. Good to have you here.
Worship.
What are we doing here at Mango?
This relates to a land exchange that we approved right here in Chambers almost 12 months ago to the day. Tomorrow would be to the day. To swap a piece of land that was a service lane that was owned by council for a 3-metre strip that ran alongside the town square, if you like, that kind of encroached onto State Park and some of the council facilities there. So the agreement was to swap our piece of service lane, which was an island, we couldn't access it from any point, for this 3-metre strip to allow us to not have to move play equipment and allow the developer to get on and do a development where he is based. And now we're just seeking your permission to classify the land as a reserve so we can maintain it and it falls into Taupō District Council ownership.
Okay, very good. Any questions of Philip? Kirsty, you happy?
Yeah, I'm happy, but see how long everything takes.
We've had a rush because they've had pretty good development.
Yeah, I'd like to move it.
Cool. And second, Councillor Shepherd. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Yeah. Thank you very much, PK. Thank you. Are you next up too?
I'm next up too, yeah. So this is another one that's Odom-Heki. Yeah, this has rolled on since March 2022. So it's coming up 18 months since we came and sat down and talked about this. And you remember we agreed to do 5 land transactions with Contact Energy, and one of them was this one here, which is an unformed road or a paper road, some people refer to it as, that runs over Putu land and across Contact Energy land and into some dock land. And it's major concern to to Contact Energy, because they've got some pipes and reinjection pipes that run over the top of the roadway, that at some point they could be trespassed. So they've offered $96,000 the council to buy that road back. And we've been dealing with the various parties, or Contact Energy by and large, have been dealing with the various parties, including Patuiwi and DOC and Taupō District Council, to provide alternative access to all of our assets into the surrounding land. And we're keen to proceed with this to allow it to go ahead. It's a road that was formed in 1985, and there's been no action since then, and no intention going forward that it'll ever become a road.
Okay, questions of Philip? Your lips are sealed then. Okay, pretty straightforward, I think, Philip.
Quick question. How was the figure arrived at for the purchase of the road?
The 96,000?
Yeah.
That was a valuation that was done at the time back, feeding into that land transaction. So there was a whole heap of land transactions which undertook. One of them, the 2 of them, were the releasing of surface rights, which allowed us to develop Mahoe Street, 30 Mahoe Street, which will be finished in a week's time and ready for sale sometime in sort of about October, November this year once we get title.
Okay, so it was valuation.
Valuation, yeah.
But are you all happy?
They've signed an agreement to provide for alternative access. And,
yeah. Just trying to place exactly where it is.
If you, it's down the back of Odie Park, and if you drive down the road and on your right is SPCA and the Pound, and then well, it's the Pound now, and then a bit further on is the Gun Club. It's that piece of land that runs through there, and there's a series of pipes that run from there that feed up into the the Contact Energy's facilities.
And was that the old road in 1885? Yeah?
It was never a road in 1885. It was a road it's never been a road.
Right.
No, but the town planners at that time thought it might become a road that would go into full. Yeah, obviously, State Highway 1 probably took precedent.
Very good. Any other questions? Councillor Taylor.
just conscious of the background to this, it was one parcel of land out of several that were proposed, yeah?
With contact Andrew?
Yeah.
1 of 5, yes.
1 of 5,
Yep.
yeah, so I'm happy to move. This tidies up a number of different issues around that land sales and transfers. So happy to move as on the board.
Second.
Okay, thank you. So it's been moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Rankin. Any other conversation? No? Thank you, Philip. Good to see you. Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you very much. Right. Okay, next up we have Karen and Nick.
We've got the adoption of the housing strategy.
Right, housing strategy. Okay. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair and councillors. It actually feels a little bit strange being up here just on my own, but with Nick as well, because it has been a real team effort to get to this point. I would like to acknowledge Kendall, who's not here, and Philip, Rwana of my team, who has assisted in developing the strategy. It's been an 18-month process. We've had Councillor Kevin Taylor, Anna Park, Evan Westerman, Rachel Shepard and Christine Rankin, who've been heavily involved as well. And I'd like to thank them for their guidance and involvement to this point. Yeah, we started this process, I think, at the end of 2021. Started off, what happened was we had quite a strong, the community, sorry, had asked us to have a stronger role in the housing space. And as a result, we've done the housing strategy. And the whole idea is to put some strategic framework about housing stuff that we do, and also provide some direction for the community on where we're going to play in that housing space, recognising that we do play a number of roles in the housing space already with resource consents, district plan, growth planning, etc. So this is putting a little bit more of a framework around some of that work. What we did about 2 months ago, we went out and got feedback from our community, and I was reflecting on this with Nick afterwards. Actually, it's something Louise raised earlier about the bin it or bag it survey that's out at the moment. It's had 1,000 responses. We got 40 submissions. I actually see that as a good thing. And the reason I think this is because our videos that we went out for, thank you to the comms team for the videos, they got 6,000 views and more on social media. We had engagement sessions across the district, Taupō, Mangakino and Turangi. And after all that engagement and going out with all the videos, 40 people came back. And out of that 40, only 7 really didn't like what we were doing. And actually out of that 7, there's probably 2 that didn't support the housing strategy. So I think it's a really good thing. I think what it reflects is the community is actually really happy that we're taking more of a role in the housing space. They're happy that we're doing a housing strategy and that we're giving them an understanding of what our role is in this space. So yeah, just wanted to point that out in case you're wondering, well, 40 submissions, this is not great. Into that, but okay, so we'll take the item as read, but I will walk you through some of the key things if that's okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So what we did, we went out with the 4 goals, high-level goals we had, and our 5 focus areas. And we said to the community, are these the right things to focus on? Or are we missing something? And feedback pretty much was really happy with what you're doing, happy with the focus areas. One, take page 4 of the report, sorry. So lots of acknowledgement that yes, housing is an issue. We're in a housing crisis across the country. Also acknowledging that it's a collaboration between us and others in the housing space. It's not all, something council can resolve. Then we had the other side where people said, council should not be involved. This is not something we should be, doing. Risk with public money. How will this be funded? A waste of ratepayers' time. And what was said in our feedback to that is actually we got quite clear direction in our long-term plan that the community does want us to play a stronger role in the housing space. And there are multiple ways we can do this. So we already play a role, as I said before, in regulatory space. We already provide housing for the elderly. So this is just another tool in our toolbox, so to speak, of how we can do that. we're not proposing that we're going to spend money on housing. We've never said we'll do that. We're not, builders. We're not going out to supply houses. But we do want to facilitate more of that affordable housing. We want to provide more housing for the elderly. And a lot of that will be through partnering with others and also facilitation and collaboration. So we're not at this point asking to spend ratepayers' money. So that's what we've said in the feedback here. Other feedback we got was around infrastructure and growth matters, concerns about not having the bridge, another bridge over the river, concerns that we're not thinking about infrastructure issues, particularly on the northern side, but in other areas as well. The feedback we've given here is actually that's a big part of what we do as a council, that infrastructure planning, spatial planning is a key role that we play. And we have got a spatial planning exercise that will go to refresh that TDC 2050 in about a year's time. And that's when we do look at where is growth possible, what infrastructure is needed. And as you know, through the long-term plan and annual plan, that is when decisions get made about that key infrastructure. So we are thinking about it. So the feedback is to the community. Yes, we are thinking about it. At this point, there's no changes needed to the strategy in terms of infrastructure requirements. Holiday homes was another big one, as you are all very aware. We've come to you before in a workshop to talk about Airbnb and holiday homes and short-term living. And we're very conscious that this is a hot topic. In our feedback, we also talked about the fact that this type of accommodation does actually play a really important part for our community, because without short-term accommodation, when we have our big events and our festivals, etc., we wouldn't have enough motels to accommodate for all those visitors. So it does play a key role. But in saying that, we do have an action in the strategy that we will investigate options, and this is going to happen through the long-term plan conversation. And so we will come back to you again to talk about probably around, rating and targeted rates, etc. in that space. So it's not something we're ignoring, and we acknowledge it's an issue for many communities, especially Mangakino, and Turangi has been raised as a hot issue. Sorry. Around the affordable housing space, we did have feedback on affordable housing, again, not being a role for council. In our feedback, we talk about this lack of affordable housing to rent and to own was actually identified as one of the core issues, not just for our district, but around the country. And that's why we did put it as pretty much number one on our focus area list. Again, we're not proposing that we're going to build houses, but we can facilitate some good outcomes, because we're very lucky in this district as being a significant landowner. And that's something, actually talking to Mr. Axel, who's here from the Waikato Housing Initiative. It's a very unique situation we're in as a council, and having that East Devon lands there undeveloped gives us the opportunity to hopefully provide some good outcomes around the affordable housing space. We also recognise in Mangakino and Turangi and other areas, they also need affordable housing. And so for those areas, we're talking about collaboration, partnerships, working with iwi, who are significant landowners around the district, and how we can get good outcomes. There are some questions around, are we talking about high density housing? Are we going to concentrate houses in certain areas, etc.? Again, yes, these are all tools that we can use. We've got the district plan getting reviewed over the next year. You've already had a workshop about housing intensification in the CBD area. We have talked about density and typologies on the East Devon lands, and that's already in the master plan and it's been consented for that land. So yes, those are all options on the table. We're not looking at, being at East Auckland, as you all know, but it is one way of achieving affordability, is increasing density around the city. So that's a recommendation that we don't need to change anything in the strategy at this point, but it is something that we're conscious, people are very passionate about where they live here, and they like the look and feel of Taupō. We're not suggesting that that's going to change, but there will be areas, particularly around the CBD, where possibly we can do some more intensification. In terms of enabling the development on Māori land, One of the key things came through was about not separating planning by race or ethnicity. And in that situation, we've, actually there's a legislative requirement there for us under the RMA, under the Local Government Act, under the Te Ture Whenua Act, and others where it is treated differently. And also, iwi and hapu in this district are significant landholders. And we would be foolish not to work in partnership and collaborate where we can to get some good housing outcomes around the district. So acknowledge people's concerns, but have highlighted some feedback there of how we're addressing that. There were some concerns around bank lending on Māori land, etc. Feedback there has been that's not an area that we can really be involved with, but we're happy to provide guidance in that resource consent space, building consents and planning advice, but the banking and lending conversations are something we're part of. People have asked us to have zero development fees and fast track consents, etc. Again, not something we're able to do at this point, but acknowledge that they're all, helpful things that we might be able to use in the future. Housing for the elderly. We had a really good session in Mangakino actually with a number of our tenants from our units come in and talk to us there. Really, really passionate about the houses that we provide there. They love the fact that we provide housing. They love the fact that council own them, and they love the fact that we, go and mow the lawns and maintain the property. They were concerned that we were looking at selling these homes. So the feedback we provided around that housing for the elderly space is we're not proposing that any of these homes will disappear. If anything, we'd like to see more housing for the elderly units provided across the district. What we're talking about in the strategy and what Philip King's team is talking about is how can we do it better? What are our opportunities of working with community housing providers, again, iwi and hapu around the district to get some better outcomes and to get some more of that type of housing provided for a community. Focus area 4, facilitating social housing development. Quite a bit of feedback around this one. Again, some confusion there about are we proposing we're going to build social housing. So just clarifying that through the strategy, we're talking about working with MHUD and Kaingaroa and MSD and making sure there are enough homes in our district, right type of homes for people, but also making sure they're in the right locations. You had Kaingaroa and MSD present to you just a few weeks ago, and you would have heard then about where their proposed developments are at the moment. And that's something we want to continue to have, is those shared conversations to understand what are they looking at doing here in our district and how we can facilitate good outcomes in that space. We had a pretty impassioned speech from some people from our social housing agency. There's a real housing crisis and some people are still, unfortunately, living in emergency housing accommodation here in motels, which is not appropriate for families at all. So that's us playing a greater advocacy role, which I'd like to thank Councillor Sheffield and Councillor Rankin for deepening up in the advocacy role already and helping that particular agency. But that's how I see us playing a greater role, is being that conduit between central government and the agencies, and also being their advocate and being there for them. And lastly was the encouraging and enabling healthy and sustainable homes. So pretty much all the feedback we got was, this is great, and yes, please do help. But also conscious, we got some feedback, which I think we may have got around the table at our last workshop as well, that other agencies are doing a lot of this already. And what we're saying is we're not proposing to do extra work or step on anyone's toes. We want to complement what's happening out there and probably make it more accessible, the information, for those healthy homes. There's a lot of really good work happening around the district and the region. So it's just having probably a central point on our website where people can access information about funding, grants, and how to get their homes out. So overall, in response to the key themes, no changes have been recommended to the strategy at this point. I've said here that the key matters raised by respondents at the drop-in sessions and through the feedback forms are considered to be within the ambit of the strategy's actions. And further consideration of these matters raised in submissions can occur when we're implementing the strategy. So implementation will look like changes in the district plan, stepping up in the advocacy role and working with yourselves around the table, collaborating and working with places like the Waikato Housing Initiative, Bay Plenty Housing Trust, and others working in the housing space, Iwi, Taupō, etc. So that's hopefully how we'll move forward. Once the housing strategy gets adopted, then the idea will be the website will look similar to what it has done for the consultation. We'll have sections on each of those focus areas, so affordable housing. We'll keep the lovely videos up that were made. We'll have in there what are the actions that we're going to take, ditto for each of the focus areas, with the idea of probably not, I think annually we'll review, we'll continually monitor, but we'll review them annually, see what needs to be updated, and then through long-term plan is when we'll make any decisions about investment, whether it be strategic property investment or development or infrastructure. So that brings me to the end.
Very good. Thank you, Erin. Thank you, and thank you for going over the item. And I know there were the particular matters. And thank you so much for your work, and Nick, you know, your teams. There's been a lot of workshops, a lot of them just acknowledge the councillors that have been involved in this too, to get to this point today. So, yeah, so thank you. There might be a few questions, is that all right?
Yeah.
So just acknowledge Axel here today from the Waikato Housing Initiative that you've obviously come down to support this best strategy in the Waikato. Yeah, well, thank you for making the trip though, mate, and endorsing this today. Right, questions, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, I'll start. This has been quite a journey from very small beginnings, and having read through the strategy and being part of it. And I'd say, as an elected member, being part of it, we had the easy job, and all credit, Erin, to you and Nick, your team, for putting this together. I think as a council, we have not turned a blind eye to what is a pressing need and has been for the 30 plus years I've lived in this town, and that's housing. So this is a huge step forward. The other thing I would say is that having sat in hearings on the district plan last week, people do read our policies and our strategies. They do absorb them, and they do quote them back to us in detail. So it's important that we get it right, and in my view, this has got it right, and it's a feather in your caps for putting it together, because people will lean on this, and they will use it to inform decisions they make about what they're going to do with their investments in town. So that's why I had my thanks to the team for the work they've done.
Thank you. Yeah. Councillor Shepherd.
Yeah, ditto. Pretty much. I wanted to thank you guys as well. I know it's been a really, really tough journey. I was only there for the latter part of it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it immensely, actually. You know, I think you're right when you say that the feedback, 40 submissions is reflective of the level of engagement and the understanding that came from those engagement events. It's been very emotive. It's a really emotive topic. And I was really proud to be part of it, and I'm pleased with where we've landed, and I'm looking forward to what comes next to implement some of these. And as you say, we've formed some really great relationships as a result of the engagement too. So, there's a lot that we can be very proud of, but we've really got to step up now and make some of this work happen. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Park.
Yeah, Erin and the team, thank you so much. I too really enjoyed the journey, and it's been over a year. And I'd be very happy to move the recommendations 1 through to 3.
Yeah, thank you very much. Any other commentary or call? I'll second what you have to say. And just acknowledging Roy, Erin's lovely better. Sorry, my eyesight is starting to fail me. I just acknowledge you, Roy. No doubt you would have heard all this at night, and all the dramas that go with it, with consultation and all that. So thank you for coming and supporting the item today, Roy. Good to have you. Very well known fishing guide. What else do you do, Roy?
Basically everything.
Everything. A wonderful, perfect husband, eh, Aaron? All right. Nice. Okay, we move 1, 2, and 3 by Councillor Parks, seconded by Councillor Taylor.
Number 2 is crossed out. It's actually-
Oh, right. Oh, no, yes, so it's a perfect.
3, number 2.
The items come to us in perfect shape. Thank you very much, Aaron. 1 and 3? 1 and 2 now, the new 2, 3. Okay, whatever. All right. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carry. Thanks, guys. Okay, 5.7, Taupō District Council report. This is Julie Cardine.
Kia ora, councillors. So this actually, in terms of opening this report, this is the last time you'll be seeing a report in this template. Obviously, we'll continue to report back on the projects that you'll see from today and Chris. We've got a slight change in the format and the added projects for this financial year. Next month, we will have this financial year updates, finance team, and the front part of the report, which currently is the strategic priorities. As you will note, need to be updated as a number of those actions have actually very positively been completed, which is great news. So in terms of an introduction, that's pretty much all I wish to add from the front part of the report. But once again, just really nice to be able to recognise a couple of the TDC team. Unless there's questions on the front part of the report, I'll hand over to Matt.
Right. Oh, thank you very much. Any questions of Julie? No? Okay, Danielle. And sorry, you got a new face here.
Chris,
have we met before?
He's old.
I don't think so.
We should. I think so.
Not so old in these glasses yet, though.
Yeah. Okay, good to have you, Danielle. And Chris, how are you?
Kia ora koutou. Very well, thank you. What a stunning day.
Good, isn't it?
It is. And so thank you especially for your time, because I know it's quite compelling to be outside today. Look, this month we've got a few big changes in the significant project listing. So I'll just go through a couple of things regarding the report format and also the inclusion of some additional projects, because we're now in the first kind of month of the financial year reporting wise. So in terms of the significant project listing, last month you'll recall we had 17 significant projects. There's now 26. So they include the new annual plan projects and a couple of existing projects that now fulfill our refreshed critical or significant criteria. Now that was refreshed at the beginning of the annual plan of the new financial year. So the new projects are 2 additional water projects, Onshore Park and Motuapa, 3 transport projects, Whangamata Road, Wairake Drive and Hook Falls Roundabout, Northern Access Investigation. We've also got 2 community facilities, which I know a number of you are across. That's OD Park upgrades and the Civic Administration building fit out. And there's 1 wastewater project. That's the Taupō Wastewater Treatment Plant Primary Clarifier 3. So that's the new projects. We also have a new project report format, and we weren't planning on looking like Connect 4, but I'm afraid it starts to look a little bit like there's a lot of colours. So just to explain that, there's really 2 lines of the RAG status, and this is to clearly show last month's status by comparison to this month's status. We've also tried to refine the red, amber, green commentary to kind of slim down, I guess, the commentary to make it quite salient. What I will do now is just go through a couple of the main changes to the existing projects, and then I'll hand over to Chris briefly to step us through 1 project in particular that he's been working on for the last wee while. So first of all, I'd like to say that the hearing dates for the district plan program have changed since this report was written, so they're actually not correct in this document. There's been a small change in the cost status of the Omori water plant. Obviously, you can see it was green and is now amber. This is really an early warning that costs may increase with detailed design, but we'll report back in 4 to 6 weeks as the design is completed. The other thing to note, which isn't documented here, but came to light over the last few days, is in regards to Te Kapua Park in Turangi for the opening date. That's actually, we've just got a little bit more time working through the opening date, as there's a bit more work to be done on safety surfacing down there, a little bit more testing. So all of our wonderful partners in Turangi have been updated, and we'll come back to you with a new opening date for that. And of course, hopefully you've scheduled in the Waiora opening at 6 AM on Friday morning. Hopefully we won't have quite the same crisp start that we did this morning. There's just one other final note, is that there's a couple of previous financial year projects which are new to this report that are in the process of being rebaselined. So you should see a couple of changes there to the time or cost as we go through that in the next month or so. But with that, and in keeping with tradition, I will hand over to Chris Haskell, who's a construction project manager in my team. And Chris in particular has been working on the Mangakino lakefront upgrade.
Cool. So we had a series of LTP approved projects for the Mangakino lakefront. One was a new toilet facility. We were going to repair the existing boat ramp. There was some replacement of the roading in that area. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to proceed with all of those projects. The reason being is through some community consultation, they've identified that there's extra work required. So we might look at car park spaces, new roading, bringing in external services on the weekend, i.e. like coffee carts, things like that. We have, however, been able to proceed with the toilet facility, which was completed last Friday and under budget. Yeah, so there is a series of other projects which are in the consultation phase, which will come up in our next LTP run.
So what's the next project, Chris?
Next project?
Next, something like that beach.
So what we're going to do is we need to upgrade the sewer system to the toilet. We also need to identify our existing services in that area, and then to understand if they're going to cope with whatever else we may add in that long-term plan.
Very good.
Thank you.
Did someone cut the ribbon on the toilet, or did we have an opening? No,
we didn't have an opening, but we Ma was out there first. No, don't go there.
But from sounds, I mean, councillor is extremely happy with it. So
yeah, that's great. We communicated that out there last night as well.
Yeah. Very good. Anything else for now?
I'll just open the floor through the chair to any questions on project.
Questions for now regarding the project. Councillor Westerman.
I might have missed it, but I'm just reading the bit under transport, Wairiki Drive and Force Roundabout. So I wasn't really in the loop on that one. So can you fill me in what's happening there?
So this is a project that obviously we have some delays with the firming up of the timelines, because this is obviously partially Waka Kotahi funded, and it's been clarified that there's not quite enough funding to do what was initially planned. So we're going back to seek some additional funding so we can kick off. But in terms of the detail, the plans are just on hold.
So that's going to become a roundabout going into Hawker Falls Road.
That's a very good question. Sorry, I'm not familiar with the detailed plan.
Yes, through the chair. Yes, so this is the upper intersection between Falls Road and Warwick Drive. This has been a long-term plan project for a while. What we're doing at the moment is confirming that there is funding available from Wakatai for their share, and secondly, testing the market to see whether the budget that we've got allocated to it actually fits with what the price is going to be if it's tendered now. So a number of you have made comments about projects in the past and us not delivering the scope not being delivered within the budget. What I've asked for in this case is for us to test the market, make sure that the price to deliver is indeed within the budgeted price. Then only we'll make a decision. At this point, the project is doing two activities: confirmation of funding and then price. And we'll share more details.
And just to clarify exactly where it is again, Andrew, outside the hub, Craters of the Moon, that intersection.
Further up, I believe. I think that's
Pretty much
one
it.
intersection.
I thought it was. I thought that was it. By the chopper.
Yes.
By the chopper, yeah. Yeah. Cool. Chopper will be happy. It slows all the traffic down to go to Hooker, Bull's Jet. All right. Any other questions? Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, thank you, Bishop. Through the chair. I'll just add to Councillor Westerman, that the issue about the roundabout. This is something I would be advocating that items like that could be included in the roading and reserve delegation so that we do get greater visibility of things like that, because I think they are actually quite interesting myself and relevant. Second thing, I just want to say for the record, the Northern Access investigation for the bridge. And this has come because I've taken an interest in the operational side of it, because there happens to be my area of experience. As far as I can tell from the briefing content of the tender, I think there is a
So
chance.
point of order, Your Worship, again, we're getting off track. We're talking about a particular item, not a procurement process.
We've got a few minutes, so I'll let Councillor Campbell carry on, but I take your point.
No, but it's only very brief. I'm just saying, as far as I can tell, I'm just one person, that there's every chance that, as has happened before around here in the transport realm, we could be heading towards another mediocre result. That's all I have to say on that.
Councillor Fowler.
Thank you, Your Worship. I find myself agreeing with Councillor Campbell. Councillor Campbell is only one person. It is his opinion. And I'd like to just put on the record that it's not appreciated having open criticism of staff who have no right of reply and no way of defending themselves. And an item that wasn't before us today, and it's not appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Fowler. All right, any other questions after now? Chris? All right, carry on with the good work out there, guys.
Thank you.
Do you want to sum up it all? This
No, just to acknowledge the work that is going into sort of looking at our project frameworks and project governance frameworks. So there's some great work that's going on with the team, and looking forward to being able to present the updated performance report as well.
Yeah, next month. So finance next month. So, yeah. Okay. Cool. Says you'll be away there. Oh, Jeanette's back.
Yeah.
Oh, welcome back.
Doesn't she look clean?
She looks
Glowing.
Okay, all right, we'll have a mover, please, for the CEO's report to be accepted, please. Thank you, Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Shepherd. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Okay, 5.8 is 5.8 members portfolio updates. And we have, first off the blocks today, we have Councillor Christine Rankin, Economic and Business. Economic and Business.
Well, I can say very positively that the supercars have been a huge hit. And I think that everyone involved in the economy in the Taupō District and beyond are absolutely delighted that that's happening. It's going to be a real boost and a boom for the whole district and way beyond, including Turangi, of course. I also want to mention that I went to the Amplified board meeting, and I just want to commend them. It was fabulous to be part of. They're really switched on. They are thinking way, way ahead. They're absolutely and utterly aware of everything that we're facing. And we're facing the same things across the country and across the world in many ways. You know, we've got nobody much to employ, and it's a real challenge, but it's a challenge for everyone else, but they're onto it. And it was a real pleasure to attend their meeting.
Right.
I just wanted to acknowledge that. It's great to see a board working in such a professional way. So that's that from me. Thank you.
Hopefully they read these minutes.
I haven't passed it on to them.
Yeah, I meet with them regularly as well as Julie. And yeah, no, we're very positive about the organisation.
Right.
So, sport recreation, Councillor Rachel.
Not too much to report on actually, but again, you know, supercars is a motor racing is a sport. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of excitement out there, I have to say, not just amongst car enthusiasts, but also our retail tenants who now have something to look forward to, you know, beyond the usual summer high period. So that's fantastic. Went along to a few sporting fixtures over the last few weeks with finals being played, and looking forward to the summer sports kicking off.
Cool. Thank you, Rachel. Awesome. Right. Youth and Technology, Councillor Karen Fletcher.
Thank you, Worship. To be fair, it's been a busy last few weeks, but a lot of concentration based around the long-term plan. As I'm sure you're aware, I'm a representative of the Māori ward, and it's important for me that our whānau are well informed with how the long-term plan process works and how they can go about making submissions. So meeting with mana whenua both in Te Mātāpuna, the southern end of Lake Taupō, but also meeting with Turangi-Tongariro specifically has been a pleasure and a privilege to ensure that our whānau are well aware of what the process involves and how they can go about making a submission for the RTP process. And I just wanted to commend the team who I think have been doing a wonderful job. I know some are split. There was some with Turangi-Tongariro last night, others in Mangakino, there's another one again happening in Turangi for the community today, so or later this evening. So I just wanted to take time to commend our staff for the wonderful work that we're doing, the engagement of the RTP process. I think it's really important that our community and our whānau have these say. So, but to do with the rangatahi technology, it's still all full guns blazing. To be fair, a lot of awesome mahi being done in the rangatahi space with the establishment of a kaitiaki committee. And that's to help better, I guess, engage youth services from throughout the district and how they can work better together. So, yeah, otherwise, can't really speak.
Great, positive news, and you're connecting with part of the community. Perhaps we haven't connected with. Really appreciate it. Right, arts and culture, John Williamson. Sorry.
As the advocate on the council advocate on the Friends of the Museum and Art Gallery Committee, I attended the AGM on Sunday, which will be the last AGM. So not, and any of the funds, considerable funds will be handed over to council, Louisa Haynes' question, which is good. Yeah, for the museum. Unfortunately, this is a sign of the times. The committee has felt they'd come their dash, but having said that, there will be still one of the people involved, the himself will be still involved, assisting the museum with exhibitions.
Is there anyone particularly you need to acknowledge, or the whole committee? Or?
Roger Marshall has been the president for about 6 or 7.
Yeah, I think we'll send the letter of acknowledgement of the work they've done. Because I think originally set up to save the museum, wasn't it, basically?
2006 was set up.
2006, yeah, with
just actually the museum.
Yeah. Yeah. So they've done their job. Yeah. Cool. Thank you for doing that. Carry on, John. Sorry.
Actually, this Council Parks domain, but I did attend a meeting at the Wellington House on Thursday night. Multicultural Council New Zealand Centre Rep up from Wellington. They've established a joyful multicultural council in also, and to associate the communities in their district. So looking forward to seeing it evolve.
Yeah,
getting more engagement. Council.
Cool.
So very rewarding to see.
Yeah. Oh, good. And as you acknowledge, Councillor Park is in charge of international.
Working with Councillor Park on that one.
I might write to Val, as Val and John, yeah, just to explain back to the portfolio. You know, Okay, cool. Thank you, John. Anything else? No, cricket?
Not this year. More than else, India.
Yeah. Councillor Westerman.
Apologies for my, I've been away for the last couple of weeks, so I've got nothing to
Cool. Councillor Park.
Thank you, Your Worship. Attended the Unison Business Awards, and it was wonderful to be back in a room full of people who dressed up and celebrate success. And it was great to see some younger business people win, the likes of Kinloch Honey and whatnot. Along with yourself, we meet with a group from Newmere, a school group from Newmere at the Taupō Museum the following morning. Yeah, and then Monday last week, it hosted a group from Shaoxing, along with Jackie, of course, our friend Jackie.
Yeah.
And yeah, wonderful group of businessmen.
Actually, while we're on next subject too, we've had an invitation from Shaoxing, was that Suzhou, sorry.
So we
Suzhou's
just,
actually our sister.
as a sister city, it's our 15-year anniversary of that sister city relationship. And so there is some work which we'll bring to council in due course around how we might celebrate and take our invitation, which is celebrate we in late October, and it does seem appropriate with such a significant milestone in that relationship to be. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Councillor Park, that's it? Yeah, Councillor. Adam. I've already done it, yeah, sorry. Sorry. Danny.
What did I do a lot?
Environmental, what initiatives have you sorted out?
You have a lot on that particular month. Just noting, we've got kids greeting Taupo on Thursday. I have sort of been having a few clashes with calendars. Yeah. People putting in campaign things on the same day. So I'm able to see the previous month's one just because of that. So just moving forward, if we could just get a bit of thought into because it is worthwhile. There's some planting days during the month. Wait those because from the feedback I got, they're successful.
Cool, thanks, Danny. Councillor Taylor, community safety. Community is safe. How many ram raids have you stopped?
No ram raids in Glasgow when I was there. But since being back, I've been locked in hearings through plan, so nothing to report this month.
Okay. See, yeah, we're going to have a break. Did we get back? No. No. Or have you done that?
In that space, it's all been very calm, Worship. I don't want to use a cue.
Yeah. Thank you. Yvonne, community services. Looking forward to the opening of that Friday. Culmination of a lot of work and a good looking building, so another asset for the town. So. Very good. All right, nothing. Oh, yeah. Kylie, anything? Food production and primary industries.
I guess I'll just start with the East Rural Award and thank you to the team at the River Road on Saturday and at Wairaka Village yesterday, consulting around the long-term plan, which was great. You would have said, Christine, around employment and Taupō, but yeah, with the price and the meat prices going on, I think I've been hearing of a number of redundancies, and I think as a community we need to be really aware. You know, for each farm there are 8 people employed in the community, and that's your average size farm, not a large farm, and budgets are having to be slashed and burned. So I just think it's very much the heads up, be aware. GDP to the district from those areas is quite critical, and they're impacting the rest of the community really.
Oh, thanks, Connie. Everyone, nothing from the Acacia Bay residents, obviously, nothing new out there. Right. Myself, I just highlight a couple of items, obviously the supercars. It's fantastic, and we've got some real good support from the media. Happy to do any story on any good stuff around that. I did mention the highlight of my career so far, but that wasn't me, it was the whole team. Just acknowledge the whole team who put that deal together, Julie, especially yourself. There's been a couple of late night dinners, but to be fair, what a great outlook the Australian company is at this stage anyway. So hope it continues. Racing club, we had an event on the lake, the horse racing club, which see the V8s as a huge opportunity as well. Wayne Smith was here, Sir Wayne Smith. And citizenship, thank you for the councillors, Deputy Mayor, for attending the citizenship last month. So just 2 or 3 of the highlights. If anyone wants a copy of my diary, Jack's is happy to make that available to you. Councillor Campbell, sorry I missed you.
Why not? Thank you, Worship. Not to say too much, but as part of the sport and rec portfolio, went up the mountain. The is pretty good. Yeah. I'm sure that's a bit of a boon for Turangi, especially.
Is it true there's more snow here than the South Island?
Yes.
Well, they say that on Tūrangi. Well, in terms of the base around where they're, but by some measure, probably is.
Yeah.
But no, it's really as good as it's been. But I've been up there in the last 5 years. So anyway, so really good. They got it open.
Yeah. So did you find the service and everything? You know, the lifts and was good?
Yeah. I think possibly I hear through the grapevine some staff took off because of the uncertainty. So there, I don't know this. I'm just speculating. Yes, perhaps there's some staff shortages, which is why some of the lifts aren't open as much as they could be. But that's just speculation. I'm not sure.
The economic development meeting, they had the chief executive come and brief it. And I said, yes, Jono, and they were really challenged with staffing, and they were concerned about the level of service they'd be able to provide. But the snow was the greatest they'd ever had, and far more on the South Island.
Yeah, that's great. Danny, you just got to get on and buy it now. One job. So as it looks, I see. Cool. So haven't missed anyone else out? No, that's great. Thanks for sharing. That's the last item of the day.
Yes.
And no confidential items today.
I'll move that.
Oh, you moved, sorry. Second, yeah. Oh, service, Karen, sorry. You're like a day in the sun. Meetings and council engagements, appointments and so forth.
Okay. Thank you, Worship. Okay, so just with changes to next month, on Monday, the 11th of September, please note that there's now a district dog control committee meeting in the afternoon. And that the workshop about Project Quantum on Tuesday the 12th will be cancelled, and I'll just rearrange that day so that it all fits together nicely. And then the final thing to let you know about is on Thursday the 14th of September, there'll now be a closed workshop with regards to the engineering concerns at 12:30 that afternoon after the ad hoc law meeting. Okay.
Cool. Any questions or queries on those dates? Okay. Like this, no training conference. We'll get the.
Sorry, just through the chair, with the ad hoc committee, when will we receive the bundle of submissions?
So I can probably get the bundle to you pretty soon. I'll check with the policy person, but the agenda will be produced on the 7th, so 1 week.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Councillor Rachel. Seconded by Councillor Lachlan. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Councillor Shepherd.
Nuhia te rito o tēnei hui. Kia wātia I runga, kia wātia I raro, aro ki te tika, aro ki te pai, hui tāre.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Thank you, Councillors. Thank you, Your Worship. Lovely.